Shalawam, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Quadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered across the four corners of the earth. This is your brother Khalak out of the Great Millstone Atlanta camp, coming to you again with another Lord willing edifying video. In this video, we're going to be dealing with the Northern Kingdom, which are you so-called Hispanics and Native Americans. As we know, the Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as you speckled bird that may look like the other nations, but according to the seed of your forefathers, you trace back to Jacob. All 12 tribes of the nation of Israel were united under King David and King Solomon. But after the fall of King Solomon, the nation of Israel was split in two, the southern and the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom, which consists of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, eventually all came under the banner of the Jews. A lot of times when you read Judah in the Bible, it could be referring to Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the entire southern kingdom. The northern kingdom consists of Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, and Issachar. Sometimes when you read the word Israel or Ephraim in the Bible, it's referring to all of the northern kingdom. Because after the fall of King Solomon, the southern kingdom was called Judah and the northern kingdom was called Israel. In this lesson, we are going to get some scriptures and go over some more history to prove that the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans are the northern kingdom of Israel. This is the book of 2 Kings chapter 17 and 1. This is speaking of the northern kingdom of Israel being exiled for the first time. It reads, "In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to so king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land, and went up to Samaria, and besieged it 3 years. The northern kingdom of Israel were dwelling in a region known as Samaria." Continuing on in verse 6, it says, "In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria, and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah, and in harbor by the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord Yahweh their power, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and had feared other gods, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. So because of the sins of Israel, the northern kingdom was exiled out of Samaria into Assyria. This was around 722 BC. The southern kingdom, which consists of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, stayed in the land of Israel for a little more time, but were later exiled into Babylon. There was also a remnant of the northern kingdom that stayed with the Jews. Here, this map shows you the routes taken when Israel and Judah were exiled. Another thing to note is that after the northern kingdom of Israel was exiled into Assyria, the king of Assyria gathered heathens and placed them in the land of Samaria instead of the northern kingdom of Israel. That could be found in 2 Kings 17 and 24. Now, to prove that the northern kingdom of Israel eventually made their way to the Americas, this is the book of 2 Esdras chapter 13 and verse 40. "Those are the 10 tribes, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, in the time of Hosea the king," speaking of Hoshea, "whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land." So this goes right along with what we just read in 2 Kings 17, when the northern kingdom of Israel was exiled into Assyria. Reading on in verse 41, it says, "But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood, till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. So this is the account of the northern kingdom making their way to the Americas. Notice in verse 41 it says, where never mankind dwelt, because at this time there were no civilizations established in the Americas. Verse 43 says they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. Here in this map, you can see how the Euphrates River leads to the Persian Gulf. That is the route they took. They went down the east coast of Africa and made their way to the Americas. Verse 44 says the Most High showed signs for them and held still the flood. This shows that it was ordained by the Heavenly Father for the northern kingdom to make their way to the Americas. Verse 45 says it took a year and a half to get there, and the land was called Arsareth, meaning another land. Here is an image of the Los Lunas Decalogue stone. This stone was found in New Mexico, and on it is an abridged version of the Ten Commandments written in Paleo-Hebrew. There is also a movie called 1492 Conquest of Paradise. It's a movie about Christopher Columbus, and in it there is a scene where Columbus says that he used the prophet Esdras to find America. This was in this movie because that is what happened. Christopher Columbus had Hebrew interpreters with him because he knew he would find Israelites when he made it to the Americas. This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 10 and 22, speaking of King Solomon. It reads, for the king had at sea a navy of Tharshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tharshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and wisdom. Now this is when King Solomon had a navy that would go out to the Americas and bring things back. Notice in verse 22 it says, once in 3 years. Back here in 2 Esdras chapter 13 and 45 it says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. So it took the northern kingdom a year and a half to make it to the Americas, and Solomon's navy went to another land and brought things back once every 3 years, so it adds up perfectly. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 49. The Lord Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. So this is a prophecy concerning the nation of Israel for our disobedience. This is what happened to the northern kingdom when Esau, the so-called white man, pulled up. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 50 and 33. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So this is an end time prophecy that is being fulfilled now because Israel and Judah are oppressed together here in Babylon the Great, America. The northern kingdom made it to the Americas first. Then with Deuteronomy 28 and 68 came the southern kingdom on ships. This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and 16, speaking of the reunion of Judah and Israel. It reads, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it, for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it, for Joseph the stick of Ephraim, and for all of the house of Israel his companions. So here Judah represents the southern kingdom of Israel, and Joseph the stick of Ephraim represents the northern kingdom. Continuing on in verse 17, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. These two sticks that have been joined together into one is the 12 tribes chart. This chart with all 12 tribes on it is a fulfillment of the prophecy we just read. This is the sign we have out when we teach on the highways and byways. Continuing on in verse 18, it says, "And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these?" Meaning the Israelites that are waking up will walk up and say, "What does this mean?" Verse 19 says, "Say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh power, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand before their eyes. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh power, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land." So when people walk up and ask what the 12 tribes chart is about, this is what we tell them, that the Lord is uniting the southern and northern kingdom of Israel, because the time has come for us to be delivered from our enemies and the kingdom of heaven to be set up on the earth. This is the book of John, chapter 10 and 14. "I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. As the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd." So this is when Yahushua was on the scene, and he was teaching to the Jews because the northern kingdom had already been in the Americas by then. But these other sheep he's speaking of here in 16 is speaking of the northern kingdom of Israel, which was in the Americas. He was telling them at that time that them also must be brought into the fold, which that prophecy is being fulfilled now. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, it was edifying. I'm going to end it by giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Quadash. Once again, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalawam.